At just 33 kilometers wide, the Strait of Hormuz is a critical strategic choke point. According to CSIS, nearly 30% of global crude oil production flows through here. Tonight, this maritime corridor is under a military blockade. Operating from the Gulf of Oman, a carrier strike group from the Fifth Fleet has established an Aegis air defense umbrella, maintaining a safe standoff distance from the adversary's anti-ship ballistic missile range. An operational report from U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, has confirmed a comprehensive naval embargo targeting Iranian seaports has been officially activated. Combat readiness directives were issued the moment the diplomatic front collapsed. The historic 16-hour summit in Islamabad, led by Vice President JD Vance, has failed. No concessions. Rules of engagement have immediately shifted to an active intercept posture. According to an assessment by the U.S. Naval Institute, this is a tactical strangulation campaign designed to neutralize Tehran's C4ISR networks and sever its logistical lifelines. The Middle East has crossed the threshold of deterrence. It has officially entered a pre-all-out war phase, waiting for a single miscalculation. The Strait of Hormuz is not merely a waterway, it is the strategic pressure valve of the global economy. At its narrowest point, it spans 33 kilometers but the traffic separation scheme, the TSS, the only safe transit lane with sufficient draft for very large crude carriers, is a mere 3 kilometers wide in either direction. Controlling these 3 kilometers means holding the main artery of global energy. That is exactly what the Pentagon is executing. According to Blockade doctrine from the U.S. Naval Institute, a comprehensive embargo demands multi-domain coordination, not a static wall of steel. CENTCOM is now activating Operation Choke Point. On the surface, instead of pushing the carrier strike group into the confined waters, the Fifth Fleet has thrust Arleigh Burke-class Aegis destroyers to the front line of control. Beneath the waves, Virginia-class nuclear attack submarines are not casting a passive net. They are conducting active ISR, primed to neutralize Kilo-class submarines out of Bandar Abbas. The electromagnetic spectrum is being suppressed by P-8A Poseidon squadrons, operating in tandem with MH-53E Sea Dragon helicopters to sweep away any naval mine threats. The blockade is being executed with ruthless precision. Every commercial vessel is under strict AIS surveillance via military satellites. Marine Corps VBSS Visit Board Search and Seizure teams are on high alert, ready to insert via MH-60S helicopters. Any ship suspected of violating the embargo by transporting Tehran's oil will be boarded, forcibly redirected, or seized in accordance with the latest rules of engagement. Iran's financial artery, generating tens of billions of dollars annually, has been severed overnight. Casting a unilateral dragnet in international waters creates a dangerous legal precedent. Running counter to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, regarding the freedom of navigation. But right now, Washington is broadcasting a chilling message. In the tinderbox of the Middle East, when national security interests are challenged, the parchment of international law is forced to yield to the barrel of a gun, and the immediate kinetic deterrence of hard power deployed on this front line today. Islamabad, Pakistan, a fragile diplomatic buffer zone chosen as the staging ground for a final deterrence effort. Behind closed doors, devoid of theatrical table-pounding, 16 hours ground on under the crushing weight of cold, calculated ultimatums. Leading the U.S. delegation, Vice President JD Vance did not bring a peace proposal. Instead, he delivered an uncompromising démarche. Intelligence analysts assess that the U.S. core demands strike directly at Tehran's national security center of gravity, the verifiable neutralization of its nuclear program, and the total severance of financial pipelines fueling the axis of resistance, specifically Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and the Houthis in the Red Sea. Conversely, Tehran would rather sacrifice its economy than surrender its deterrence capabilities. For the Supreme Leader and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, capitulating to the maximum pressure campaign is political suicide. Dismantling its proxy network equates to voluntarily stripping away its defense in depth, leaving its homeland wide open to standoff airstrikes. At the 16th hour, the window for compromise definitively slammed shut. No documents were thrown. There was only a chilling, absolute silence. The moment Air Force 2 cleared the airspace, secure communication protocols transmitted the negotiation failure codes to the National Military Command Center, the NMCC. Command authority transitioned instantly from the State Department to the Department of Defense. The Pentagon immediately raised the DEFCON readiness posture. Across the theater, CENTCOM's forward operating headquarters simultaneously activated kinetic strike sequences. Diplomacy has ended. The execution order for an all-out multi-front offensive has officially begun. The moment secure satellite communications transmitted the execution order, the EXORD, establishing the embargo zone, a devastating shockwave instantly slammed into financial centers from Wall Street to London. According to Bloomberg's macro risk assessment, the hard lockdown of the Hormuz choke point will trigger a surge in Brent crude prices, shattering all records within a 24-hour cycle. This is not merely a localized energy disruption, it is a strategic inflation bomb, primed to collapse the global economic architecture. Logistics supply chains, from maritime freight costs to core civilian commodities, face imminent collapse. However, the center of gravity for this pressure is not confined to the trading floors. It is shifting to the grand strategic chessboard between the superpowers. In Beijing, a tense atmosphere envelops Zhongnanhai. China, Tehran's largest strategic oil importer, faces an existential dilemma. The energy pipeline sustaining its defense industrial base has just been choked off by the Pentagon. Will the People's Liberation Army, the PLA, back down, seeking a detour through back-channel diplomacy? Or will they deploy gray zone tactics, dispatching the maritime militia and Type 052D destroyers to the Gulf of Oman in a show of force, directly challenging the Fifth Fleet's deterrence umbrella? On another front, the Kremlin observes the upheaval through a complex lens. Tactically, the blockade turns Moscow into an immediate beneficiary as raw material prices skyrocket. But strategically, their vital geopolitical linchpin in the Middle East is on life support. If Iran's proxy shield collapses, the entire military infrastructure of the Russian expeditionary forces at the Tartus base in Syria will be exposed to hostile fire. Simultaneously, the architecture of the Western alliance is exposing its fractures. On the surface, NATO and Europe reluctantly issue statements of support for Washington. However, behind the diplomatic rhetoric lies the dread of a crippling recessionary cycle. The Pentagon's unilateral detonation of the Hormuz choke point is forcing the old continent to bear the brutal financial fallout of a deterrence gamble completely beyond their control. The world is holding its breath, waiting for the first domino to fall, triggering a cascading collapse of the entire global security, economic, and energy order. The countdown has reached 0. Every global early warning system is now locked on Tehran. Facing CENTCOM's total naval blockade, Iran stands at a life-or-death crossroads: concede or counterattack. Scenario 1. Tehran accepts de-escalation, suspending uranium enrichment to salvage its macroeconomic network. However, for a nation whose security doctrine is built on uncompromising deterrence, this tactical retreat is the most improbable of choices. Scenario 2, more brutal and far more likely. Asymmetric warfare erupts across the Gulf. The Quds force activates its proxy network from Yemen to Lebanon. More dangerously, the Revolutionary Guard Navy, the IRGCN, will deploy FIAC, fast inshore attack craft, and Gadir submarines to lay EM-52 mines, establishing an A2AD, anti-access area denial umbrella. Simultaneously, aerospace forces rain Fateh 110 ballistic missiles upon U.S. logistical hubs across the Central Command Theater. This blockade transcends mere deterrence. It represents Washington's ultimate stress test. Either this strangulation forces Tehran into submission, or it serves as the detonator for a high-intensity regional conflict within the shallow waters of the Persian Gulf. The day of reckoning has officially arrived. In your view, will Iran launch a preemptive strike to break the blockade, or will global markets collapse before the first missile even leaves the rail? Share your tactical assessment in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on the most high-stakes geopolitical developments. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next briefing.